To understand good governance, we only need to look at countries with equally rich natural resources as we have here in Australia, but where people don't necessarily share in the wealth of the nation, and there can be poor public governance and corruption. To look at the importance of transparency in building trust and good governance, we're joined by Board Chair, Transparency International in PNG, Peter Aitsi. Peter is a senior Papua New Guinean business leader with over 30 years of experience managing a number of PNG's leading companies. In 2004, he was awarded a Queen's Award as a member of the British Empire in recognition for his contributions to the development of PNG media and his long-standing voluntary service to various community organisations, including the Badili Club of PNG and the Kokoda Track Foundation. Can you please join me in welcoming Peter Aitsi?
Thanks very much. Firstly, before I started, pay my respects to the traditional people of this country and acknowledge their leaders, both past, present and emerging. I also acknowledge the elected leaders that are here with us today and the organisers for the gracious invitation to come and speak to you. And thank you, Caroline, for your encouragement to come. Also with us, we have our PNG delegation headed by our Deputy AG and Titus and Megan. We make up the foursome that is the PNG delegation, so well represented. In terms of the presentation, this is sort of the front cover, but I just want to make some key points. There's some themes that have run through the presentations over the last 2 days. Key in that is obviously this word that we keep hearing. It's about engagement, about trust, about building relationships, and then from there, perhaps trying to make an impact in terms of the communities that we all serve. I am a little different to all of you because I come from civil society. So perhaps somebody from outside of your profession and maybe outside of the sectors that you work in. So I'll bring a different perspective in terms of how we, civil society, look to engage with people such as yourselves in trying to disseminate some of the work that you do so that we can empower the communities that we serve. And so together, hopefully, we then can work to build on that trust, on that relationship and strengthen public confidence in the work of government. So that's really the premise of my presentation. Before I start, let me perhaps just give you some background. I'll cover off on the work of Transparency International. I'll talk about the partnership that we've struck with the Auditor General's Office of Papua New Guinea, and then I'll talk about the kind of tools that we've used for community engagement. But before I do that, I really do want to set a little bit of a context for you. I'm not sure if people are aware, but Papua New Guinea is Australia's nearest neighbour. So from the tip of Queensland, we are about maybe 5 kilometres at the shortest point between our two countries. Cairns is an hour flight Port Moresby is an hour flight from Cairns, and given the growing population in Cairns, we call it our southern suburb. In terms of the country, we have 800 different tribes and 800 different languages, so very complicated, very complex. We also have a population estimated of about 10 to 12 million. Now myself, I'm a rural Paitana man, and I come from the district of Kairuku, which is located 120 kilometres west of Port Moresby, our capital city. We have an open democracy under a Westminster system, and for those with some knowledge of PNG, we have the challenges of development. Our public sector unfortunately has been weakened over the years, a lot of it to do with perhaps too much political influence, and as a result, perhaps the presence of corruption within our systems. Government service, unfortunately, is inefficient, and in most cases, our population of 10 million aren't properly served in terms of the basic services that should go to them. And as a result, the general sort of structure of government is really challenged in terms of the way that it delivers its services. Within all this, the government is the dominant player. We've got a very small economy when you think about it. I mean, we've got the government passed our budget recently, and we've got a revenue base there of something about 25 billion kina, which, if you do the conversion, it's around about 14, maybe even 12 million Australian dollars, 12 billion Australian dollars. So it's not a big, well, the country doesn't have a very strong economy. So that's sort of the basis of where we draw our resources to serve our people. Unfortunately, with the government being so dominant within the economy, we have very, let's say, a weak formal sort of structure. We have poor social services that should provide the support to and to support and encourage our communities. And so the social safety nets that I think all of you perhaps are exposed to or benefit from, unfortunately in PNG it's not the case. We depend on our own tribes, and through a system we call the Wontok system, where I look after you, you look after me, and that in its purest form is the way that we manage our societies and we look after each other. Unfortunately, that has also been compromised, and some people use it through those ethnic linkages to conduct corrupt activities. So, with that understanding, I do want to, I hope you'll appreciate, as I present to you, this kind of environment that this work is carried out in, and the kind of, I suppose, challenges that befall our Auditor General, in particular as they carry out their work, and in most cases under-resourced, and with a backlog of work that they then need to be able to deal with. And so it's when Transparency International looked at this situation, our aim was to try and partner with the Auditor General in order for us to be able to elevate, if you like, the importance of the work of the Auditor General, and importantly, start to get greater public awareness about the findings of their reports. And as a result, in a way, have that demand from the public pull through the work of the public accounts committees when they receive these reports, and indeed Parliament, to pay greater attention to the reports and perhaps take action. So, let me start off and share with you, if I can. This is the work of TIPNG. So we are, essentially our aim is to empower our citizens in order for them to better understand their civic responsibilities and rights. And we do this through direct engagement with our communities, but also strategic partnerships like we have with the Auditor General. I've been with Transparency International since 1999, so it's, 26 years now, I think. The organisation globally was started in 1993. The PNG chapter started in 1997, so 3 years after the global organisation was launched, and it was founded by one of probably our greatest statesmen, a gentleman by the name of Sir Anthony Siaguru, who was our founding chairman. Through my role in TI, I've been chairperson twice now. The first was a short stint of about 18 months, and then I went to work with a company called Newcrest Mining, and they wouldn't allow me to speak on behalf of TI, so I took a bit of a hiatus there. But I joined again. I took up the chairmanship back in 2018, and it's a voluntary role, and I serve on the board with 15 other directors. That's just to give you an idea of the kind of work we do. It's about that point made by Tom Rogers, the engagement piece. We actively seek out these engagements to create, if you like, a partnership and a value relationship with our stakeholders. Okay, so the areas we focus on, and this is really probably down to the areas that I think which probably would be most pertinent for you. Public accountability. Our work seeks to really drive public accountability, increase the public's involvement in holding government to some level of accountability. So that's primarily what we focus on. Civic agency or public or advocacy. Here our work is to gather information and then to disseminate it in a form where the public can be informed enough so they understand their role and their rights, and then hopefully they'll make the next step there in terms of the government's response to those roles and rights. We do this through coalitions, and these coalitions are active coalitions. We don't go about signing MOUs or MOAs. we go about building these relationships through direct contact with these groups, and where we can, we look for fertile ground to be able to partner with these organisations. Okay, so to the work with the Auditor-General. As you'll see there, what we've tried to do is, as I mentioned earlier, take the work of the Auditor-General and then make it and put it into a condensed form and have it available to the public. And as a result of that, hopefully what we do is we've created a greater awareness of the important role that the Auditor-General plays. I'll share with you, as we go forward, some of that work. The other areas of points of engagement that we have, we've got essentially 5 MOUs with a number of agencies, 5 agencies of government, and the purpose of those MOUs is to assist them to develop their own anti-corruption strategies. So our work takes us into government as well to help these organisations build anti-corruption programs within their operations. We are also engaged in the Open Government Partnership. Now this is a global program which essentially brings civil society into the work of government to be able to better scrutinise and better monitor the implementation of government budgets. So that's an ongoing role that TI plays there. We're co-chair. We are also involved in the multi-stakeholder group, which essentially oversights the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Some of you may be aware of this. Essentially, that facility allows for a tripartite oversight of revenues that flow between the resource sector and into government in terms of what it reports. So that's also an activity that TI is involved in. Okay, now to the work of the Auditor-General. A little bit busy here, so you may not be able to see the detail, but there's a QR code there if you really want to get to the background of it in terms of the reports. But essentially what we've aimed to do is to take some of the reports of the Auditor-General and condense it into a form which we then publish in the 2 daily newspapers. And we post it online onto all of our socials so that the members of the public can have direct access to these reports. Interestingly enough, when we first put this up, we got a call from one of our state agencies complaining that they were misrepresented, saying that they shouldn't be on this list because they thought that they were outside of the authority or the ambit of the Auditor-General. So as we work closely with the Auditor-General, when we put that to the Auditor-General, I think they corrected that perception fairly quickly. But what it led to was an invitation from their Managing Director for us to go out and actually do a presentation to them in terms of why they were ranked as they were. And since then, I think the Managing Director's actually been sacked, and I think they're starting the process of rebuilding. So this is sort of the kind of impact that the reports can have. The other thing that we do as a result of this work is that we, in a way, provide the public support visible through this engagement, through some advocacy that TI does, for the government to recognise the important role that the Auditor-General plays, and then hopefully also to then be able to follow that with budgetary support that will strengthen the work of the Auditor-General. So every time we've put these publications in the paper, it's followed with that type of advocacy and a letter to both our Treasurer and also the Prime Minister, which we've copied, from time to time we copy the Auditor-General as well. Respecting their independence, but also signalling that there is a concern within the community and that TI is there as a supportive stakeholder to try and encourage the work and support the work of the Auditor-General. Okay, so this gives you sort of an idea of the number of organisations that are covered, but it's under General Part 4, I think, of the Audit Act. So it just covers some of the departments within the government system. But what it found was a lot of these organisations, unfortunately, were not compliant. Unfortunately, the other key information that came out, the other key statistic that became very worrying was that we had a lot of dated financials. And I'm talking about back to 2018 in some instances, and a couple of them beyond that. So you could imagine that places a great concern in terms of the application and use of public monies when you're not actually reporting to them. And so that's where it places a greater importance on supporting the Auditor General to get the resources to update the financial reporting of these organisations. So at least there's an opportunity to perhaps scrutinise further, what's being done with public monies. Okay, so that gives you sort of an indication of the work that TI does. So here, some of the key things that we found: lack of financial management reporting. So clearly that was a concern. And of recent times, I think our last report, what we followed up with was a call for greater action to be taken on CEOs and managing directors and directors who were negligent in their responsibility for reporting. And so that's if you'd like, some advocacy that we've taken directly to our elected leaders to try and to draw through greater accountability for some of the leaders of our government departments. Okay, another area that the TI works in is of recent times is we've taken an interest in our trust accounts, our government trust accounts, which sometimes fall outside of the oversight of the public and also perhaps the Auditor General as well. But the trust accounts we've been monitoring contain around about 1.4 billion kina, based on public information that we've been able to access, and that's through the budget documents that we've been able to access. But what worries us is that these sit outside of the normal sort of government budget process, and as a result could be open for abuse and misuse. So that's an area that we've focused some attention on, and it's something that will continue to sort of bring greater sort of transparency or visibility around the activities in these trust accounts. And that's just a call from our Cardinal Archbishop John Rebutt, once again highlighting the concerns from the general public in terms of the conduct of, and the lack of transparency and accountability through some of these government funds and government mechanisms. So the last item there that I'll share with you, I suppose we're a little bit hopeful, but we've written to each of these, the managing directors and CEO of these entities that hold these trust accounts, and asked them to confirm their balances. Okay, so we're waiting. I think we've only got one back, but we're waiting, and we'll continue to wait. And we'll get to a point where if they don't respond, then we'll publish their names, and we'll continue to ask the questions why they won't respond, because there's public monies at the end of the day. And so it's in our interest to ensure that those public monies are captured in some form of reporting. Okay, now on to my last sort of section here, and it's around how we work through our coalitions. So the work of combating corruption, as we all know, can't be done alone. And you need to build support through your community base. You need to build support through interested groups, and you need to, in a way, seek their involvement in the fight against corruption. Because as you appreciate, when I sort of give you the context of PNG, the challenge there is overwhelming, it's complex, very risky, and so as a result you need to build, in a way, your army that will walk with you as you try and tackle some of these issues that we face. And so we have worked over the 26 years to build credibility within our community groups. We've worked hard to strike up these, what I would call, strategic alliances and partnerships with a number of our government agencies. And we do that when we find fertile ground and individuals who are courageous enough within these departments to do the right thing and stand up for what is right in our country. And that provides us, if you like, that opportunity to then engage and then to apply the experience and the resources that a group like TI has in order for us to try and bring about the change that we so long for in our country. So let me close by saying that, look, from an outsider's point of view and a civil society person, I extend my thanks to all of you for giving me this time, and also for allowing us to take part in this august gathering. I also just encourage you all, there is a purpose to what we do. Now, whether that be serving your communities here or serving the various groups, but there is a purpose to what we do. We all get caught up in our day-to-day work, and sometimes we lose sight of what that purpose is. But as I shared with you, we've got 10 million people depending on a very finite resource. So it's incumbent on us, that those that perhaps understand what needs to be done, to be able to apply our efforts to try to improve the livelihoods, to improve the way of living for our communities. So with that, thank you very much.
Peter, thank you. What an amazing presentation. Thank you for sharing the work that you're doing in PNG and giving us all a snapshot of what's happening there. I've got some questions, if that's okay, from the audience. One of them is saying that the work you do is extremely important. What can we do to support you, and in brackets, as citizens, not as auditors?
Well, look, I think you're doing it already by inviting us along here. It's fantastic. And I can say to you, I think you all know it, it's a lonely life as an auditor, isn't it? And working within that sort of, that environment, you walk through the door and everybody looks at you and says, oh, something's coming. And so we realise that with our partners at the Auditor General, in that kind of environment where the systems are weak, the resources aren't there, it makes it more important for us to reach out to those external parties in order for us to improve the capabilities in that organisation. I think, Caroline, I think when you were in Port Moresby, just that opportunity for our people to be exposed to the global practice, I think it was fantastic. I could see that immediately in terms of the energy within the Auditor General's office. I think also the discussions around the professional standards and setting up that group, I think is key and critical, and I think our people would also benefit from that as well. So I think those are the two things, just an engagement, partnerships where we can, and opportunities for training for our Papua New Guinean auditors.
Peter, how does PNG compare to other countries in the region in terms of transparency and accountability?
Okay. Well, TI, for those that have knowledge, puts out an annual index. It's called the Corruption Perception Index. Unfortunately, PNG is ranked the worst in terms of its corruption levels. Remembering that it's a survey, a compilation of surveys that look at business sentiment or business perceived corruption levels within the business community. And so I think we rank the worst, and then after that I think it's maybe Solomon's, Vanuatu, and then Fiji is the best. So that's where we sit at the moment.
A couple of questions about the accountability scorecard. What are the items or the criteria that you use to develop that?
Okay. We work closely with the Auditor General, but essentially it's around sort of the recommendations or the findings that the Auditor General brings forward in their report. It's fairly basic, I suppose, representation of it. It just shows, the kind of findings or the level of findings within the report. It shows the years that the Auditor General has covered. It also then, shows whether they're compliant, or whether they're average, or whether they're actually, fully compliant. So it sort of goes. It uses those sort of parameters to, in a way, measure departments against each other. As I said, it's worked reasonably well because we've got, we've had acknowledgements amongst our politicians. It's had some peer pressure amongst the different agencies and departments, so they're comparing it now. I know when we put it out and we sort of ranked, I think you ranked the state-owned enterprise as being compliant, or the majority compliant. And I know we got a call from one of the CEOs of the state, one of the state-owned enterprises, very pleased with the result. And I said, well, it's your doing, not us. We're just reporting it.
And what about the follow-up to the accountability scorecard? What happens after you publish it?
Well, it's essentially it's the AG's report and it goes to Parliament. Our role is to try and draw through from Parliament the actions that are required. And so that's the method we use in terms of that public, that information being made available to the public. And so through the Parliament, then through the Public Accounts Committee, we then, in a way, keep a regular sort of monitoring or regular sort of interest in it in order for us to then draw the recommendations and then see if it actually flows into any meaningful change with respect to the work of some of these departments.
Do you think that engaging and empowering the public helps encourage more active citizens and do you see higher rates of voting in elections because of it?
Higher rates of voting. Well, elections is another thing in PNG. I don't know, as we say, we generally vote regularly and very often and multiple times. So that's another conversation and it's another area of interest for TI. We're trying to bring about some election reform. But in terms of active citizenship, I do see that. We go out fairly regularly and we meet with the Chambers of Commerce, the church groups, youth groups, sporting groups, all kinds of groups. And generally there is a concern because it's a felt concern. People can see the impact of corruption on their lives. And as a result, they want to be involved, but it's a case of us giving them the tools and maybe even the desire to be involved, and that's the work of TI.
There are a number of questions around this. How do you support your teams to have courage and resilience in what sometimes must be very tense circumstances? Well,
I'll give you probably one of the classic examples. We've monitored the elections over the 4 election cycles, so that's over 20 years now. We have a small team of 15, that's the core group within TI. They're our paid employees. But come the elections, we swell up to about 350. And these observers go out and work in selected polling booths. And once again, that sort of thing about protection, they take along with them a card which says, I'm a member of TI. And so in certain electorates, it gets very hostile. So surprisingly enough, when they throw this card out, the seas part and they walk into the polling booth. And I've seen and witnessed that there's a great sort of, if you like, a respect for TI in our rural population, and they're very well supported. So that's one of the ways we sort of build a little protection around our employees.
And I'm not sure if you're comfortable talking about this from a personal stand, but a few people are asking about you personally, whether you're ever, in danger, and saying that your courage to speak out and build transparency in government is remarkable. And what drives your personal courage, Peter?
Well, look, I'll share with you. I mean, I left home when I was 6, and I grew up in Melbourne, Victoria, and went home when I was 18. And so having that exposure caused me to sort of think about and reflect on my life. What was I going to give back? And I think that sort of led me to the work I did with the Media Council, and it led me to eventually getting a tap on the shoulder from our founding chairman when he thought, who's this brash young person that's making all this noise? He should join TI. So 26 years later, that's what gets me engaged. In terms of the risk, there is risk. And I think our Deputy AG will say it himself. I mean, you do get confronted. I've had a very senior state minister getting very agitated. But what I feel where I find comfort is that we are trying to do the right thing, and on the whole, most people recognise that, and that's really where you can withdraw your support.
Are you able to tell us about how TI is funded?
Sure. We have different, if you like, streams of membership or membership fees. We generally raise funds through our membership. That's corporate membership, individual memberships. That's one source. We also have initiated what we call the Walk Against Corruption, which is a major event that we hold around the capital, but also in other provinces when we can. And that event is essentially just a registration and walk concept. So you make it available to the broader community, families come along, companies come along, and they pay a fee to participate. So that provides us, if you like, the funding base to run our operations. So we've become self-sufficient. We bought our own place at Barocco now, so that's our home. And so that allows us to have financial independence, which ensures that we're able to carry out the work we do.
What are the main positive signs of change that you've seen in the 25 plus years you've been with TIPNG?
Yeah, look, it can be disheartening work because you really can't see, if you like, holistic or overwhelming change. But we have little victories. And one of them in past years has been the establishment of ICAC. It's gone through some difficulties at the moment, but it gives us a starting point in terms of trying to push back on corruption. The other is around the response from some of our agencies. And, I think the Attorney General, the example we share there, I think brings us some hope. Also, the 5 agencies that have signed on to the the anti-corruption plans that we've developed there with them. So it becomes an entry point for us. And beyond that, I think the biggest encouragement for me is the broad support within our communities. And that's really, I think, something which we need to build on.
You mentioned coalitions and partnerships and how important they are. How do you think people in this room might take that idea on in the work they do?
Yeah, look, as I think I spoke to, sort of that passion that drives you. I mean, look around the room and there's a lot of young people here, or younger people here. And I encourage you. I mean, not often in your life where you actually do something which you love and you feel passionate about, you get up in the morning and you want to do things. And if that's really the career you've chosen, I think that's your starting point. And if you can, then reach out to other individuals that share your mindset of like mind, I think that's where you start to build the sort of, if you like, the islands of integrity or the nucleus of change. And then through that, through your association with these individuals, you can then start to advocate change within your industry or even your community. So I think that's the biggest encouragement I can give you.
How important is the media in helping you achieve your goals, and is your media independent and unbiased?
Well, I wear a couple of hats here. I started a radio company back in 1994. I'm the chairman of that company now. And so as a result of that, I was president of the Media Council for 8 years, and we tried to drive change within the sector as well. Media is a critical player, and so that coalition that I spoke about, the joint chair of the coalition is the current president of the Media Council. So we work very closely together because we understand the important role that media has in terms of disseminating the information that we are able to collate. So media is very important, independent media, free media even more so. But as we all know, they're now obviously being impacted. The media is being, in a way, eroded a little because of social media and the diversity of information that's now available through the various platforms. So it's even more important for us to ensure that we're supporting independent and properly sort of properly independent media organisations that represent the truth and fact.
Well, what learnings from PNG do you think we could apply to Western Australia and Australia and the other countries that are represented here?
Look, sort of without sort of knowing your own circumstances, but I think I'm hearing regularly this term used of engagement. And, once again, I mean, I don't know how predisposed auditors and accountants are to engaging, but where you can, see an opportunity or a value to work with your stakeholders, whether that be your parliament, whether it be your communities, whether it be different industry groups or even different professions. I think there's value in us, sharing, best practice, sharing information, sharing concerns with these groups so that there's an amplified voice to some of the issues that we all, have to deal with.
And finally, Peter, what's the number one thing you would like to see change in PNG?
Eradication of corruption, without a doubt. If we had another 2 hours, I'd talk to you about all the concerns, but we really need to restore our electoral process in order for us to be able to have legitimate leadership within our country and allow our communities to be able to exercise their right to vote in an informed and free manner, which hopefully will then give us leaders that work in their interest, not self-interest.
It's been absolutely fascinating hearing you speak today. Thank you to your team who are here as well. Peter Aitsi.
Thanks, Dave.